This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, how there, ho, there's Jeff Cutter, and welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. And on this day, January the 28th, in the year 1990, one of the biggest Super Bowl blowouts, if not the biggest Super Bowl blowout of all time, happened. It is the San Francisco 49ers win over the Denver Broncos at the Louisiana Superdome by a score of 55-10. The funny thing is that both teams were the number one seeds in their conferences respectively, but you wouldn't know that. With San Fran crushing them. Denver. In fact, San Fran was the first team to win back-to-back Super Bowls with two different head coaches. Bill Walsh retired after Super Bowl 23, and then George Seifert took over. The Niners were 14-2, the best in the NFL. Obviously, they're defending their Super Bowl title. The Broncos won 11 games, trying to avoid having 4 Super Bowl losses, which would tie them with the Minnesota Vikings at that time as the worst ever. It is the most lopsided in Super Bowl history still to this day. San Fran's 55 points are the most by a team ever, and the 45-point margin victory is the largest ever. Well, yeah. The Niners scored 8 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. They missed an extra point in the first quarter. So that was it. They had no field goals. They had 8 touchdowns. Wow. Joe Montana was the Super Bowl MVP, obviously. His third, 22 for 29, 297 yards, and 5 touchdowns, which was amazing. All that. So anyway, New Orleans looked good for the Super Bowl. Well, anyway, they hosted the Super Bowl. The 89 Niners, who play in the same division as New Orleans, got to play in their division rival stadium. Anyway, Bill Walsh retired as head coach after San Fran beat Cincy in Super Bowl 23. But George Seifert got the Niners to 14-2. Their 2 losses were by 5 points combined. I want to find out who they lost to, because I don't remember who they lost to. Their only 2 losses were to the Rams and the Packers, both at Candlestick Park. They were undefeated on the road. They had to play a home game against New England at Stanford Stadium because of the earthquake. But it didn't matter anyway. Joe Montana only threw 8 interceptions in the season. He had the highest season quarterback rating in history at the time, 112.4. Montana also ran for 3 touchdowns and was named Offensive Player of the Year and NFL MVP. Jerry Rice had 17 touchdown receptions. Roger Craig was still running pretty well. The Niners looked pretty good. John Taylor had a breakout season as a wide receiver, catching 10 touchdown passes. Remember, he's the guy who scored the winning touchdown in Super Bowl 23 against the Bengals. Pat Jones did well. Tom Rathman was a good fullback. Mike Kofer was decent. Steve Young threw for 1,000 yards, being Montana's backup and all that. They still did pretty good for themselves. They had a good defensive end, Pierce Holt, linebacker Charles Haley, Matt Millen, Bill Romanowski, Ronnie Lott, and Eric Wright, that's good. Denver had been to Super Bowl 21-22, both losses, then crashed to an 88 run. But they fixed it and got to 11-5. Their biggest new addition was the rookie Bobby Humphrey, who ran for 1,100 yards. David Treadwell was the rookie kicker who did pretty good for himself. The defense had a new weapon, rookie free safety and sweet Razorback Steve Atwater. Alongside Tyler Braxton, the Broncos secondary had 14 interceptions. Braxton had 6 of them, including 1 for pick 6. Carlo Mecklenburg was good, and Denver had a good defensive line. Vance Johnson had a good receiving season. I think he was also a Razorback. However, John Elway threw 18 interceptions and 18 touchdowns, so that was raising for concern. Despite all that, the Broncos and Niners both got buys into the divisional round because they were the number 1 seed. So anyway, the Broncos had a shock given them by the Steelers. The Steelers nearly beat the Broncos in the divisional round, but the Broncos did a 24-23 win. But there were a couple of blown calls that ruined the Steelers that game. And then the Broncos took care of Cleveland 37-21. It was the 3rd time in 4 years that the Browns and Broncos would battle each other for the AFC title. However, this game was not as heart racing as the other two was. You know, the drive and the fumble. The Broncos were up 24-7, and actually the Browns almost came back to tie it. They were down 24-21, but Elway destroyed Cleveland's chances to come back. The Niners blew out Minnesota in the divisional round 41-13, smacking them, and then they took on the LA Rams, who beat San Fran one of the two games. However, the Rams could not answer, and the Niners surprisingly won 30-3. That was way too easy. So anyway, a lot of people said that Denver didn't really have the power. Elway could do well, but you know, it's the Niners. Montana actually was 7-0 as a quarterback in the Superdome due to the Niners' dominance of the Saints. In fact, the Niners lost once in 1986, but that in the Superdome, but it was not Montana who played in that game. It was actually Mike Borowski and not Steve Young. Broncos would wear their home orange crush jerseys, trying to ruin things. But the Broncos were 0-2 wearing orange and 0-1 wearing white, so I don't know why they wanted to wear orange. Anyway, CBS would have the game. The great Pat Summerall and John Madden would be the two guys who would call this one. Week. The NFL today was good and all that. Unfortunately, though, this was the last NFL broadcast for the NFL Today team as it was constructed. Brent Musburger was fired after a management change at CBS. Musburger called the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship in 1990 and then left for ABC/ESPN. Irv Cross was taken off the studio team to become an analyst, being the color commentator to Tim Bryan's play-by-play stuff. Dick Butkus went back to acting, and Will McDonough moved over to NBC. So CBS had a two-man studio team in 1990 with Greg Gumbel, who joined CBS from ESPN, with Terry Bradshaw. As Bradshaw would move from being the number 2 analyst on CBS's broadcast alongside Fern Lundquist to the studio analyst position. CBS would not go with a 4-man studio team until 1998. So, anyway, it was still pretty good. The Nielsen rating was 39 for CBS, which actually was the lowest rating since 1969. Kind of awkward, don't you think? And this was the last time the Super Bowl started before 6 Eastern Time. It started at 5:20 Eastern Time, so that was weird. Anyway. It's huge and all that. So anyway, Aaron Neville sang the national anthem. The recent inductees to the Pro Football Hall of Fame had the coin toss ceremony. The halftime show was a salute to New Orleans in the 40th anniversary of Peanuts. So anyway, yeah, it was cute to see the 40th anniversary of Peanuts. The first quarter started off the Niners, after forcing the Broncos to go 3-0, got a touchdown pass from Montana to Rice. Denver would have to kick a field goal to make it 7-3. However, the Niners took over. After a fumble recovery, the Niners got a touchdown pass from Montana to Brent Jones, but Kofor missed the extra point, making it 13-3. Kind of weird. Anyway, the Broncos went 3-0, and then Tom Rathman got a touchdown run to make it 20-3. John Taylor had a good punt return, and then Montana to Rice to make it 27-3. The game was pretty much over. Because Early in the third quarter, Rice got a touchdown from Montana to make it 34-3. And then after a Denver botched drive, John Taylor got a touchdown pass from Montana to make it 41-3. This game was pretty much in the bag. John Elway did get a touchdown run to make it 41-10. And you're thinking, well, Elway's done for it. Might as well bench him and go with the next guy. Or even bench Montana for Steve Young, get him into the game somehow. But anyway, after Raffman and Roger Craig both scored touchdown runs, it was 55-10. So Rice had his 3 touchdown catches in the first 3 quarters. Well, it was basically it. The Niners won by a score of 55-10. It was too easy. Anyway, Montana and the Niners the next year would actually have a chance to go for a three-peat, but were denied by the New York Giants in a video I did earlier this year about the Giants shocking the Niners in the NFC title game, and how Joe Montana was hurt by Leonard Marshall's sack that actually had him a series of injuries: broken finger, bruised back, and a concussion, and a throwing elbow problems. That would lead to Steve Young becoming the starter and Montana going to Kansas City. Denver entered a period of decline. After Super Bowl 24 the next season, they were 5-11, which was terrible. They got to the AFC title games the year after, in 1992, but lost to Buffalo. However, they came to success by 96, only to lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars of all people. But thankfully, though, that the Broncos got better than that, and they actually got 2 Super Bowls for Elway. So Elway got his Super Bowls eventually. So yeah, Steve Young did come in the game, throwing 2 for 3 for 20 yards. Broncos had Gary Kubiak. Remember him as a coach? 1 for 3, 28 yards. So yeah, Bobby Humphries ran for 61 yards. That's not bad. He almost had the most rushing yards in the Super Bowl, but that was Roger Craig with 69. 69. A lot of records happened and all that. So anyway, that was huge. Super Bowl 24 was too much of a blowout and all that. The Broncos would lose their 5th Super Bowl in 2014 to the Seattle Seahawks, making them the winner for most Super Bowls lost as a franchise, and not Buffalo and not Minnesota. So that's something Denver will have to live for right now. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.